I suspected my wife was planning a divorce, so I moved my assets. 2 weeks later, she filed but I was. This story is titled I suspected my wife was planning a divorce, so I moved my assets. 2 weeks later, she filed and claimed it was all a joke when her plan backfired. Hey everyone, before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now, let's start the video. Hey folks, I've been scrolling through posts here for a while, always thinking I'd never have my own story to share. But life has a way of surprising you, and I've been carrying this around for months. I need to let it out. Let me just say up front, I've never been the type to jump to conclusions or assume the worst. My wife, let's just call her M, and I have been together for 6 years, married for 4. Things were solid, or so I thought. We had the usual ups and downs, sure, but nothing that made me think, oh, there's trouble here. In fact, for most of our relationship, we were that couple, teammates through and through. We laughed at dumb inside jokes, debated over which movie to watch for hours, and had this rhythm that just worked. She'd plan elaborate date nights, and I'd surprise her with her favorite takeout after a long day. It felt effortless, like we'd figured out this whole love thing. That's why what happened next hit me like a ton of bricks. Then, about 6 months ago, things started to shift. At first, it was little things you'd probably miss if you weren't paying attention. She started taking her phone everywhere, even if she was just going to the kitchen or folding laundry. I mean, before this, her phone would just sit on the coffee table for hours, and she didn't care who picked it up. I made a joke one day, saying, "What, are you running some secret spy ring now?" She laughed it off and said, "No, work's been emailing me a lot." Okay, fine. But then a couple of days later, she set up a password. That one caught me off guard because she'd never used one before. I casually asked her why, and she said something vague about security and hackers. I didn't push it because I didn't want to sound paranoid, but something about it just felt off. It didn't stop there. She started stepping out of the room to take calls, something she never used to do. It wasn't subtle, either. Her phone would ring, and she'd be like, "Oh, let me just grab this real quick," and disappear into the bedroom or out onto the porch. If I asked who it was, she'd just say, "Just a friend from work." Then there was this habit she picked up of keeping her phone face down on the table. I didn't even realize it was a thing until one day I reached over to hand her something, and she quickly moved her phone out of the way. It was one of those blink and you'll miss it moments, but it stuck with me. It wasn't just the phone stuff, though. She started feeling distant. Conversations that used to flow naturally now felt like I was pulling teeth. If I brought up future plans, like where should we go for our anniversary? Or do you think we should start saving for a new car? She'd just nod and say, "Yeah, we'll see," before changing the subject. The day it all really clicked for me was this one random Wednesday. She told me she was meeting a friend for coffee after work. It didn't sound weird, she does that sometimes. I happened to be running errands in the same area and thought, hey, why not surprise her? It'll be cute. When I got there, though, she wasn't with her friend. She was outside the cafe, pacing back and forth with her phone pressed to her ear. I stayed in my car because something about the way she was talking felt serious. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but I caught snippets like, "It's almost ready, and starting fresh soon." My stomach dropped. I couldn't figure out what she meant, but it didn't sound like work stuff or friend drama. It sounded bigger than that, like something she'd been planning. When she got home later, I asked her how her coffee date went, trying to keep my tone light. She gave me this whole story about her friend venting about her boyfriend's latest screw-up. She went on about how she was giving her advice and being a good listener. I nodded along, pretending to believe her, but my brain was working overtime. Was I reading too much into this? Overthinking? Or was there something deeper going on? I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, something she wasn't telling me. Things carried on like that for a few more days. I started watching her behavior more closely, not because I wanted to catch her in something, but because I needed to make sense of what I'd seen and heard. She wasn't acting suspicious in any big, obvious way, but it was the little things that didn't sit right. And then, out of nowhere, she brought up our finances. We were having dinner one night, just a normal weekday meal. We were sitting there chatting about random stuff, her work, a new show she wanted to watch, when she said, "You know, we should really organize all our financial stuff," flashing her most innocent smile. It was such a left field comment that I just stared at her for a second. "What do you mean?" I asked. She shrugged. "I just think we should have everything in one place, you know? Like all our account info, passwords, documents, that kind of thing. Just in case of emergency." I didn't know what to say. This wasn't something we'd ever talked about before, and the timing felt weird, considering everything else I'd noticed. "What kind of emergencies?" I asked, trying to keep my tone casual. She shrugged again. "It's just smart, isn't it? What if something happens to one of us? Or what if we need to make a big financial decision quickly?" Her explanation made sense on the surface, but something about the way she said it put me on edge. It was too rehearsed, too neat, like she'd been waiting for the right moment to bring it up. I nodded and mumbled something like, "Yeah, I guess that's a good idea," but inside, alarm bells were going off. Why now? Why suddenly care about organizing our finances when we'd always kept things separate and loose? That night, my mind kept replaying her comment over and over, trying to piece together what it could mean. Was this just normal adult stuff, and I was reading too much into it? But then I thought about the phone calls, the conversation I'd overheard at the cafe, and how distant she'd been lately. It all started to add up, and I didn't like the picture it was painting.